Alright, so you already seen the video of me walking down answering questions. There you go, my brother right there. And he's my co-editor. So I'm gonna release the GoFundMe section where we working on the transitional home. And Ivan, is there like any homeless in Barbados?
Um, in
Like,
Barbados, we have homeless people. I guess some is because of, you know, domestic abuse, or some like because of tragedy, their house were burned down, or some because of drug problems. But we don't have that much homeless in Barbados compared to America. America has a tremendous amount of homeless people.
hmm, like, do sometimes, you know how we got a word called trespasses? Like, do you know what trespass mean?
Yeah.
Do you see a sign say trespass in front of the buildings, like the work buildings around you where you got like around in Barbados?
Not that many.
And so where can the homeless sleep? Do the homeless get fined and sent to jail about sleeping anywhere?
No, the homeless, they basically sleep anywhere basically. I think they're building a shelter right now in Barbados for the homeless. I'm not sure if it's fully developed, but it's not an issue that detrimental. You see homeless sleeping on the streets in broad daylight in Barbados. You know, it's not as bad as here, as I say, that you guys are being persecuted and prosecuted for basically having nowhere to stay.
There we go. Because mostly that's what I was there thinking. So take it over, Mama.
Okay. So when you went out there and see the homeless and talk to the people, speak to the people that just walk by homeless people and can't even have a conversation, or assume that homeless people are like all of them crazy or all of them are drug addicts. Speak from what you see when you went to the streets with the homeless. What do you see? I mean, whatever God put on your heart. What is it you see? We're trying to get people in this conversation because the media refuse to hear anything, the true stories behind homelessness, and people that don't know. I have spoken to producers from the media, I've spoken to reporters. They told me the media is not interested in running homeless stories. The media they run a story when it hits the airwaves and when it's a big deal, but they have no real interest in hearing stories like these. And so more people are being pushed into dire situations because of nobody want to take the upper hand to say, you know what, that can be me. That can be me. Everybody assumes that it can't be them. And that is so not true. It can be anybody. So from what you see and talking to the people, what?
Well, the thing that was more surprising, I guess, was that it was average people that you would see that, you know, look like me, dressed like me. Some of the people had jobs, but they had no way to stay, couldn't afford the rent. So basically, they go to work, they come back, they sleep on the streets, you know? And that was really like upsetting to me, to know the fact that some of these people out here were fathers, brothers, sisters. I met one lady that she actually told me that she had grandkids, and I was like, you know, in the Caribbean, we as a people would never put out our mother. You understand me? Like that, your mother's on the streets, and basically, like, as I was telling my mother, if it was that we were in so much of a bad position that 5 of us had to sleep in one bed or we had to sleep in the floor, then I would know that all of us are under one roof. But, you know, I don't know if it's the stereotype that people believe because you're homeless that you have to be bad, or you have to be a drug addict or something. So, you know, one day we up, the next day we down. Nobody knows when exactly you're going to fall or when exactly you're going to rise. Only God knows. So, you know, but I think we have to treat each other the same and try to help each other as much as possible. But there's always the upper class, the middle class, and the lower class, you know? So it, to me, is, you know, the more power you get, the more responsibility you have. But I guess a lot of people just don't want to deal with the issue. Homelessness is an ongoing issue. Really and truly, I believe it's not something that's going to be done easy. I believe a lot of people just don't really care because a lot of people just know that it's not affecting them, so it's not their problem. If I can close my eyes and walk past you, you know, I can ignore the problem. That's just reality. A lot of people don't like to, you know, deal with the fact that this is my mother, my brother, my cousin that's out there homeless. I'm doing better and I want to give them a hand, you know. At the end of the day, how would I feel to know me and my brother grew up with each other, same house, I'm living good, or I'm living okay, you know, even if I'm living below my means and he's out there homeless. I couldn't sleep at night knowing that anything can happen to him, you know, but as I say in the Caribbean, we don't have that problem. If you're hungry and somebody has a breadfruit tree, a lime tree, you know, and somebody has sweet potato plant, you can ask a person for something.
A breadfruit tree is the tree that is the vegetable, is a vegetable.
Yeah, most likely.
It looks like a vegetable.
Right.
There we go. They don't know what's a for some people they don't.
Breadfruit tree is like big like a coconut.
There we go.
But it's soft when you cook it.
And it's plentiful in Barbados, you know. I knew I had a friend of mine that told me that things wasn't good for him, and he actually ate breadfruit for like 2 weeks, you know, everything possible he could do with breadfruit because it's plentiful, and the average person would say, okay, you could go on the tree and pick 1 or 2 breadfruits, and it fills you a job, and you can only go to a shelter every 2 days to get a shower.
Oh yeah, let me talk about that.
You gotta talk about that because everybody should go right to a shower.
Why we both
As my mom was saying, well, with the situation with the homeless, and you know, some people homeless and they do have actual jobs, but they have no way to stay because they're underqualified or they're overqualified for government assistance. In the Caribbean, we have something called standpipe, which is basically like a pipe that runs water into the community. You can turn it on and turn it off just in case your water or the water that the government provides needs fixing. So we have a lot of homeless that goes to those standpipes and use the bath, you know, to bathe. Some people go to standpipe and wash their clothes, you know. And what has me surprised is that the fact is that I'm from the Caribbean. Most of the Caribbean islands are small, and this is something that we do easy. So the fact that I here in America and see that, you know, a state or you know, that's, let me say, 100 times bigger than where I'm from, Barbados, and the government is not doing it, you know, it's a shameful thing because at the end of the day, I pay taxes to try to help my brother or my sister, you know, the other person that actually need it. I may not need it, but somebody else needs it. But so I'm trying to find out where does the money actually go if it's not going to helping the people. You know, it's not a big issue for a person to need, for you to not give a person a shower, but it's a very important thing for a person to wash their face, to brush their teeth, to smell clean, because you never know what opportunity is on the rise. A person may be skillful, but because of how they present themselves, a person may say, okay, well, you smell bad, you look like a criminal, you know, I can't have you on my property, and oops, there goes the opportunity. So I think the government should do something more to try to help facilitate people, you know. It's not an easy job. I think it's easy in the sense where it is that you have fire hydrants. The same way how you have fire hydrants all over the place. You know, I think you could facilitate other places where it is that people could actually have a bath. In Barbados, as I said, we have standpipes where we get water. We have showers at the beach, you know, bath showers that people use when they come off the beach. They have homeless in Barbados that they use those showers to take a bath, because at the end of the day, a person should look presentable, smell presentable, you know. I think it's the least that the government should do.
Another
you know?
element of homelessness that people don't understand is a lot of people say, well, when people said, so where do you work? And I say, on the streets. What do you mean on the streets? Where do these people sleep? And I said, on the streets. I said, and they just passed a law that if they find them on the street sleeping and they tell them to move, they don't move, they're going to put them in jail. And they go, well, why don't they go to the shelter? So now I got to break it down for people break it down how the shelter situation works. You got to get up, you got to call 411. When you call 411, it tells you to go meet a vehicle which is called the task force. The task force now, these are people that are homeless and walking, I've got to take the bus. Now they got to find out where the task force is located, at what time the task force is be there, to meet those people, to put your name on the list to get in the shelter. Then you have to wait on the task force, and you got to do this almost every day and bug them and bug them and bug them, because the shelters are full. And so in order for you to get in the shelter, it means that somebody has to come out of the shelter in order for you to get in the shelter. So the shelter has a lot of rules, and lots of times people, they're waiting for you to break the rules, because if you break the rules, they're going to put you out, and now they can move somebody else in, and it seems like a system that's working, and all it's doing is recycling people. Now you go into the shelter, you break the rules and they put you out. You got to stay on the streets for another few months before you can go back again and put your name on the list again. So there's not enough shelters. Shelters is an expensive project, and it enables homelessness. When you go into a shelter, you got 30, 40 people sleeping on one floor. All you have is a mat. Now, I'm not saying don't be grateful for the mat, but when you're in a place like that with so many different personalities, everybody dealing with a different issue, it creates mental health. When you go into a shelter, their process is to get you a social worker. That social worker gonna work with you, and they're gonna divert you either to housing or to a mental health facility, or a facility if you in recovery and you need help with addictions. All of these are expensive programs. All of these are included with doctors, medication, tons of money. Some people will never get out of their addiction, and some people can function in their addiction. But we treat everybody the same. So it makes more sense to have a system that works, where you can point people in the right direction and bring down the cost, and use that money to build affordable housing, tiny houses, homes that can house 6, 7 people, but everybody need their own space. Not having your own space is critical to mental health. I don't have a problem laying outside in the backyard and sleep. I don't have a problem laying in the garage floor and sleep, but I need my mental space. You need to have that safety net where there's like 4 walls and you know that nobody is bothering you or nobody is talking in your head. Most people don't know that if you're close to being homeless or being evicted, you cannot apply for a shelter until you're on the streets. And I know this for a fact because I had a mom and I called to put her name on the list before she ended up on the streets, and they told me, tell her to call back when she's physically in the streets and she can meet up with the task force to put her name on the list. You have to lie, you have to cheat, you got to do all kinds of stuff just to be able to get in these programs. Another thing that people don't know, the domestic abuse shelters operate the same way. I spoke to the media about it and they didn't do anything. You go into the domestic abuse shelter, there's people waiting. And so they need to get somebody out in order to get somebody in. And so what do? As soon as you violate, they put you and your kids in the streets. At 10 o'clock in the night, I watched them put a mom and 5 kids with a 4-month-old baby in the streets. And they told me to get off the property or they will call the police. See, people don't know these things. People don't know that the majority of big organizations is a part of the problem. They don't know that the people that run in these big organizations get big pay, they drive luxury car, and most of the money goes to them and the building and whatever. It doesn't go to the cause. Still got a little bit of love in your heart. You might not have the love in your heart enough to go out there and do the work. So help us to do the work. We're not in this for money, we're in this to try to save lives. So the least you can do is share something that matters, because everyone matters.